Hi, I'm Erin Marcus, former corporate executive turned entrepreneur and founder and CEO of Conquer Your Business. Welcome to the Ready Yet podcast. We're excited to bring you more than 100 episodes of interviews and insights designed to help entrepreneurs get the financial and emotional freedom they need in order to build a business and a life they're proud of. All right. Welcome to this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I finally had to remember to hit record. Mr. Jim Hardwick and I just like to talk to each other. It is what it is. But I can't wait to share your experiences with you, while we're in the quote unquote green room, talking about the amazing things you're doing, the things you had to go through to get there. And you can share as much of that as you want. But this idea about figuring out your passion and being pulled forward by it, and I can't wait to share yours with everybody. So before we get into all the dirty underbelly of it all, why don't you tell everybody who you are and what it is that you do?
Well, thank you, Erin. It's great to be on your podcast today. I really appreciate it. My name is Jim Hardwick. I live in Phoenix, Arizona, which is, I've lived all over the country, but I love Phoenix because it's warm most of the year. And what I do a couple different things. I am a fractional outsourced VP of Sales. So I work for myself. I'm powered by an organization called Sales Acceleration. There's actually 190 of us across the country in England and Canada. And so I help small to mid-sized businesses that are in sales pain, need sales infrastructure, or need sales management. I go in there and I'm a sales builder. I'm not a consultant. We go and roll our sleeves up and we get the work done. I was in corporate America for 36 years, mostly healthcare driven. And we've all experienced corporate America.
And healthcare.
Yeah.
Wrong subject for me today, but okay.
I learned a lot, got a lot of wisdom from the experience. I took a year off because of stress at one time, learned a lot about that. And I vowed I would never let myself do that again or anybody that's ever worked for me. So now I absolutely love what I do because I can work with small to mid-sized business between 1 to 70 million and go in there and help them grow their revenue.
Right.
That is, to me, gets me up out of bed every morning.
Oh, it's so much. And I had a great, I had a great corporate career. I worked with amazing people. I learned so much, but it's so removed from a feeling of impact. Like there was a feeling of accomplishment when I would close a deal and put pieces together and, but it didn't feel like that impact went beyond those four walls.
Or next Tuesday, they decide they're going to downsize the company. And you are a great employee and you've given 16 hours a day, but yet your numbers and your name's on the bullet and you're gone.
And there's no control over it, right? I mean, I didn't have, but my version of that really bothered me was we would put these amazing opportunities together and these deals together and they take a year, 2 years, 3 years. And then one of the parties would be like, we're just going to go in a different direction. And all your work just goes away. And I get it. I got paid to show up regardless. But I have a bigger attachment to my effort than, hey, I came in, I clocked in, I clocked out, I got paid for sitting at the desk. Who cared? I cared.
But now when you work for yourself, if I put in time on Saturdays and Sundays, which I often do, I'll write articles or whatever, I walk out of my office going, it's a great day. When I used to do that corporate, if I had to work on Saturday, Sunday, I'd walk in my office and look at my wife and said, I'm done. When can we retire? I can't do this anymore. It's taken away from my family. Nobody cares. But it's just such a flip. And every minute you invest in your business is an investment in yourself and your family. And it's very inspiring.
And I will, for people like you and me who are so excited about it, we can make it sound easy. And very little of it is easy. Like it's learning how inspiring and exciting and easy are probably mutually exclusive, right? I mean, if I'm excited about it, odds are it's not easy.
Right. No, you nailed it. It takes a lot of work. And at Sales Acceleration, there's 190. And I was in a job I just left recently where I was in charge, responsible for the success of 190 of these people. And they're great professionals. But we had people, they didn't want to work.
They
They
don't,
wanted
right.
a title, they wanted to say they had their own business, but they weren't willing to put in the effort. And then they wondered why they failed. And it would just broke my heart because they invest in this and they want to be successful, but they're not willing to put it. You've got to work your tail off when you work
And
for
I,
yourself.
right. And I have a lot, I do try to come to that with an empathetic approach because I know what we're up against, right? I know what we're up against from neuroscience. I know what we're up against from business acumen. Like, I get it. But yes, there are people who they think they're pressing an easy button by joining a franchise. They think they're pressing an easy button by putting out their own shingle. I don't have to listen to anyone anymore. And anytime, what I have learned is anytime you think you are pressing an easy button, you are taking a shortcut. Hell, even if it was long and you say to yourself, I think I finally have this figured out, doom. Signals doom. Like that just that's not how this works. That's not how this
No,
works.
no. And especially, and this is any job, if it's corporate, if it's working for yourself, your first year is always your hardest.
Yeah.
And I used to, when I got transferred around the country and things or different jobs. And my wife, we'd always look at each other and go, first year, and you just know because you're learning and you're understanding the culture and you're understanding your people and the same thing when you're a solopreneur. You're learning, you're building a network, you're building referral partners. Every business I get is through referral partners.
Right.
And that's the miss for a lot of fractional people out there. If it's be it coaches, if it's there's so many different fractional people, and they don't understand the power of how you cultivate and develop a referral network. And it takes time, it takes effort, and it takes a lot of Zoom calls. But it's if you build that, your business is set for years to come. And
Well, it's
it,
because the other thing is if you look at the age difference, and this isn't like a dig, this is just how we were brought up, my generation, we were brought up interacting with each other. And so we realize the power of that. And younger generations, they just weren't brought up that way. They really weren't. They were brought up online. And so, and I've been talking about this idea of what stage is your business in? Are you growing? Are you leveraging? Or are you scaling? And one of the biggest challenges and mistakes I'm watching people make is they should be working on growing or leveraging, but they're jumping to scaling strategies that is nothing wrong with the strategy. They're just not ready for it, right? It's a mismatch. And you could get everything you want with growth or leveraged. Strategy is a different game. Scaling strategy is a different game. But Instagram would have you believing that's where you start.
yeah.
And right. And if you just don't know any better, again, not being a jerk, but just with empathy, if you just don't know any better, why wouldn't you believe that?
Well, and you're exactly right. And I think that's the struggle is everybody sees what they see on social media. And as far as I'm concerned, if you look at social media, everybody is making $5 million and playing video.
Without working, right? By
Right.
sitting at the pool and pictures of their toes.
Yeah.
Right?
And loves world peace. And they have a cocktail in their hand and life is great. And it's reality is it's not that way. People still buy from people. And as I always preach, I preach this to anybody I work with. When you first meet somebody, when you're fractional, when you've got your own business, or if you're in sales, you want to sell something, you got to first build trust. Then you can educate them on what you're doing. And once you've built that trust, and my trust is built because my referral partners have already built the trust for me because they're a trusted advisor.
Right.
And they're saying, Jim can help you with sales. So by the time I meet with them, Aaron, I never have to talk about myself. I just find out if I want to work with them. Can I help them? Are they willing to change? And then we sit down and we talk about what it's going to cost and what I'm going to do in the engagement. and we get to work. And I hate to say it, in a lot of cases, it's that easy because my
It's
referral
that
partner
simple,
already done it. Yeah,
right?
it's that simple. Thank you.
It's
Good call.
uncomplicated. And, you know, I mentioned to you before we hit record that I made a bunch of big adjustments in my business at the fourth quarter and moving. And one of the things I did was I looked at everything we were doing from a marketing strategy, from a client acquisition system strategy, and I went through and I removed all the dots. If there was more than 2 steps between what I was doing and acquiring a client, we're not doing that right now. We're just not. That's a scaling strategy. We're just not doing that right now. I'm building things that are a little different. And the complication will kill you.
Yes. Keep
The
it simple.
complication will kill you. So I do want to talk about something. We were chatting about this idea because I know you have much bigger things going on than even your job and what you do for a living. We were talking about this idea that if you go into becoming an entrepreneur, or if you're already out there making it work and you're trying to go for more, trying to grow, trying to leverage, trying to scale, this idea that if you're trying to just pay the bills, I call it avoiding pain, right? Get the monkey off your back, get out of debt. Like, it sounds like getting out of debt would be a fun thing, but truthfully, the way most of people approach it, it's a burden, right? We feel the burden of it. We don't feel it as an opportunity, right? If you are doing whatever it is you're doing in order to avoid pain of whatever, it is so much harder to move forward than if you're doing what you're doing because you're, I don't even say moving towards pleasure, but you're creating something bigger than yourselves. And where does your version of that fit in with your business, with your life, with all of the things?
Well, my whole vision and purpose is about serving others. And that's what inspires me. I've been blessed, and the sales side of it is to serve small to mid-sized businesses to help them grow their revenue. My wife and I also have a foundation called Hardwick Foundation. And the way we serve in that regard is my wife's a dental hygienist, and we take a dental team to Kenya every year, and we work with the Maasai people. The Maasai people is an indigenous tribe out in the bush. There's 1 million Maasai of the 52 million people in Kenya. And if anybody's ever watched a documentary, they're the guys that jump. They're the
Oh, okay.
jumpers.
Yep.
They're the jumpers. And when I ask my Maasai friends, I said, why do you jump? And they say, the one that jumps the highest gets the prettiest girl.
Right. It always comes back to that, doesn't it? It always comes.
But they're fantastic people. They were, back in the day, they were warriors. Now they're conservationists. And so we go over there and we take our dental team. We'll be going again March 2nd. And we'll have 16 people total. And when we went over there last March, in 4 days, we saw 341 patients, did 1,097 procedures, and extracted 197 teeth.
Oh.
We set all of this up on the floor of a pavilion, and we basically build a clinic in 4 hours, and then we do our work, and then we store the equipment, and we come back the next year. And the reason why that happened, Aaron, was we had an opportunity to go on a safari in Africa, and it wasn't on our bucket list. We kind of went, not kicking and screaming, but we thought we'd take some pictures and be done with it. And, just that's it. And we had an opportunity through this safari camp and some connections. So we went, and with my brother-in-law and sister, and we got, because of our experience, we got to go to a school in a two-room clinic. And the clinic was a cinder block building with 2 tables and virtually nothing in it except a physician assistants. There were some Maasai women and their kids, and none of us would even go in there. This, to us and our standards, this wouldn't be a clinic. And so I walk out of the clinic, and mind you, I've been in healthcare for 36 years. I looked at Derek, the Maasai guide, and I said, Derek, do they ever bring dental teams here? And he says, no, we get medical teams through here, but never dental teams. And mind you, I had spent the last 10 years looking how do you create a life of significance? How do you build a legacy? And I read a book by Bob Buford called Halftime. And it really talked to me. So, when you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s, you do things differently. As you get in your 50s and 60s, you look at things differently. You're differently financially, your kids are gone. And so when I asked Derek, I said, they bring dental teams? He said, no. And I said, there's a need. He goes, I got a cavity right here. And at that moment, God, the universe, the Maasai
Right.
warriors from the past spoke to me and said, you're bringing a dental team back. I've also become, we talked about this earlier, Aaron, I've also become extremely intentional about what I do. And I decided at that moment, I'm bringing a dental team.
I have a question. How long did it take you from moment of inspiration to taking your first action? What was the first thing you did?
It took 3 hours.
That's right there.
And I went back into my tent with my wife, who was actually standing next to me when I asked Derek the question. And
It's like, what are you even talking about?
she knows my mind. And I said, Jody, I want to bring a dental team back. Would you come alongside me? That's the pivotal question. Because if she says no, I'm out. I can't do it.
Right. Then, yeah, this is
She says, absolutely. We came home being very intentional of our approach. And I've become intentional because I see people that are passing away that I know. I see people with illnesses. I used to think about somebody when I'm driving down the road. I need to call them. I wouldn't call them. It'd be a fleeting thought.
right.
So now if I think, I call. When I think about doing something, I do. And so 10 months later, we took our first team, 8 people, all our equipment, and we saw 192 patients our first time. Didn't know what we didn't know. Didn't understand any
You
of this.
can make a difference without knowing everything. I mean, I think one of the things that stops humans is we get stuck in our brains with all or nothing. If it can't be huge and perfect and the end game vision of it, we do nothing. And what I have learned is success loves speed.
Interesting.
Success loves speed. It's got, who is it? Is it Mel Robbins with 5 seconds, take action, success loves speed. How I have learned, because I never had the language before, that my intention is very, very tied to my instinct.
Mm-hmm.
And I need to find ways to pay attention to what my instincts are telling me and take intentional action on that.
Well, I love that.
And people let this go by, and it's not that hard. And you can talk about the altruistic side of it and say, look at the good you're doing, right? But you can also, let's face it, you don't do this because it makes you feel bad. Right? Like, you don't do this because it makes you unhappy. So there is selfish, absolutely fantastic, self-serving feelings as well.
And that's okay.
And it's perfectly fine.
I wrote a whole program about embracing your servant's heart to elevate your business. It's another company I have. And the whole thing about that is when you serve like this, it comes back to you 10
It
times.
comes back, right? I mean, you don't see the Gates Foundation using an anonymous name. We all know who's like, it's perfectly acceptable for the world to know what it is doing.
And it's okay to feel that because, they say, well, you should be humble. Oh my gosh, we are very humble. We don't want the accolades.
No, we want you to spend money so we can leverage it to do a better job, right? Like,
yes. But the accolades come, which we've been blessed, but people believe in us, and it's so rewarding. When you put your head on the pillow at night, you've made a difference in this world. And here's the one thing, if I can share this real quick, is people will say to me, Jim, yeah, I get you go to Kenya. That's really cool. And the act of service, I can't go to another country. And I say, you're missing the point about what it means to serve. What it means to serve is if somebody needs to be heard, then spend some time and listen. If somebody needs help, like as little as your neighbor, if they're elderly and their garbage cans are out, and it's raining, bring their garbage cans in.
We used to
They
just call
cook
this
you.
common courtesy.
Yeah, but reach out to that friend that's pinging in your brain. Call them. That's what service. If everybody would have every morning, I know this is impossible, to wake up and think, how could I serve somebody today? It could just be as much as saying something nice to somebody that hasn't heard a compliment in 10
Oh my
years.
God, right?
It's unbelievable. It is such a small
And
act.
I'm going to bring it back to how it helps you in your business, because this is where two things, and it's funny because it has to do with sales. When I was in corporate sales, that was easy. We were a big fish in a little pond. Yeah, I had to put deals together, but there was no cold calling. Prospecting, it was very warm prospecting. People weren't necessarily ready, but everyone knew who we were. So sales was easy. You're out there on your own, you hang your own, you put your shingle out. Now sales is about you. And it was a whole different ballgame. And one day, because I talk to animals, whether or not they understand me. One day, as I was walking out of my house, I was looking at my dog because I had consultations to go on that day, and the business I had at the time, we did those in people's homes. And I literally, for whatever reason, said to the dog, "I'll be back. I have to go help some people." And that's what came out of my mouth. And that's what set the stage for the day. And when I looked and just kept that thought as I walked into those consultations, I wasn't trying to sell something.
Yes.
I literally just changed my entire approach to see how can I help somebody. And it changed everything because it took me out of my own head. It was the starting point of me understanding that it wasn't about coming up with a magical thing for someone to say to someone and get them to buy. It was about asking questions and just trying to help. And then the other thing that happened was when I would network, I would meet these people that looked the word I always use is put together, right? They were normally tall. I'm only 5 feet tall. They were blonde. I am so not blonde. They were, lean, and I am big, but I ain't lean. There's no straight lines on this body, right? They're everything you see the magazines tell you is what beautiful looks like and successful looks like. And so, right. And so they have their outfits and everything matches, blah, 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 blah. And what would happen is they would come up to me and say, "Oh, do you want to have coffee?" And I was putting those people on a pedestal because they looked the part.
Yep.
And then we would go to have coffee. And then I realized these people have no idea what the hell they're doing. And I actually could have helped them. But because I walked in putting them above me, that's very hard to come back from. So instead, what I did was I very intentionally changed my approach to knowing that I could help in some way. Whether that was a referral, whether that was officially, whether that was put a smile on your face. Every time I walk into a room, my goal is help in some way.
And I would use that word instead of help. I would say serve. It's the same idea.
Mhm.
It's so rewarding. I tell people all the time, if you need sales advice, if you need help, call me. I will give you free advice all day long. I'm not here to monetize everything out of my mouth. And if more people that are trying to build a business would offer their services at no charge initially, guess what? The impact that you'll make, because guess what? People call me and then they refer me to somebody else because I helped them for 15 minutes on a call.
Right.
And they're
Raving
like,
fans that never were your clients.
you got to call this guy. He knows what he's talking about. And it's so easy. So many people are so balled up on, I got to chase that dollar. If I'm going to talk to somebody, it's going to cost them an hour. And that's so much money. And it's just like, that's the wrong approach. The wrong approach is, how do you make them better? Because if I can raise their boat, we all win.
Right. And I think, unfortunately, what we've really seen as I get older, I've learned I've become a total conspiracy theorist. I don't know if it's age. I don't know if it's just appropriate for the environment we're in. It could go either way, right? But what we've seen is this horrible shift towards blame, lack of responsibility, entitlement. You can't serve from any of those places.
You're exactly right.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It
No.
doesn't work.
People first. People first. Powerful. It's fun. Here's the other thing. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in
But
my
you
life.
can tell. Like the first time I talked to you, you were having an abject meltdown over a power cord and you were way too busy and we still had a blast, right? Like you were not having a good day.
I remember that. I can't believe you remember that. Oh my gosh, that was horrible.
And yet, and this is how, by the way, this is one of my tests. Like, this is how I know true entrepreneurs. When you can look at your horrible days and look at all your mistakes and do nothing but laugh at yourself, we know you've been through, we know you've been around the block a couple of times. Because if you don't have a sense of humor about this, you won't make it.
No, no, no. And I go back to the word fun. How many times did I ever use that in corporate America? I didn't use that a lot. And one, here's the blessing, is the quality of people I deal with on a daily basis
Yes.
is unbelievable. And the people that, one, work in small to mid-sized businesses, they're the backbone of this country. The referral partners that are all trying to make it. These people are amazing people. And a lot of them have become friends of mine.
Yeah.
That it's just really empowering to meet such quality people, which inspires me and creates, I get energy off of others. And it's just a lot of fun. I don't use that word lightly because people say, oh, we're having fun. No, I enjoy it. I enjoy getting up.
As horrible as it is, that's still fun, right?
I don't worry about, I don't have, in corporate, I used to get these Sunday blues and my stomach would get knots. My wife could almost set the clock to it. And it's like, here comes Monday. I haven't had Sunday blues since I started.
Well, and I say it's been, my last business was working with families with aging parents, which is a very trauma-filled situation. So I don't say it about then. But this, I sold that, closed that at the end of 2017. But since I've been doing what I'm doing now, it's been 5-6 years since I've had more than just a passing interaction with someone I don't like. I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
Think about people who have coworkers who are sabotaging them, managers who are so insecure that they're derailing people's careers, companies who are restructuring with no humanity, even in good companies, by the way, even in really good companies. They have to meet this number, that objective, and everybody goes by the wayside. I haven't interacted. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're in a small business and you can't say the same thing about your business, we need to revisit what you're doing and how you're doing it. Because it doesn't have to be that way.
That's very insightful. That's really good. And I'd say it's I've had the same experience. How many times do you have to work with somebody in corporate? You're just like, how are they still here?
So there was a movie, I don't know if it was maybe in the 90s, 80s or 90s with Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson.
Yes.
Shanghai Noon.
Yes.
And it has one of my favorite lines where the two of them are they're in a gunfight. Owen Wilson's in a gunfight with the bad guy. And I don't remember who played the bad guy. And he's trying to shoot back and the bad guy just stops and says, how do you even survive out here? Right? How do you even survive out here?
No, you're right.
Say that about a lot of people. How do you even survive out here?
Good stuff.
So if people, I could just keep talking to you, but eventually we have, people have to stop and go do other things. If people want to learn more about what you're doing, about your foundation, about the way you're able to help with sales, about all the things, what is the best way for them to find you?
I'm on LinkedIn. You can ping me on LinkedIn or at jhardwick@salesacceleration.com. It's up the picture. Sales acceleration with an X. We try to make it as difficult as possible.
You're hiding. It's very hard to find.
But also, Hardwick Foundation is my work that we do in Kenya. And if you're interested, every night when we're there, we're leaving again March 2nd, we post on Facebook and Instagram. I do the Instagram. My wife does Facebook. I don't have Facebook, but I do Instagram. And so we post a couple things, reasons why is because a lot of people donate to us, our friends and family and corporations, and we need to be good stewards of their money. 100% of every dollar that we receive goes to these people. And the average income was $1,000 a year, $2.74 a day, less than a cup of coffee from Starbucks. That's what they make. So we spend hours and hours and hours putting together these trips. My wife is the most organized person in the world. We take over 825 different dental items.
Oh my God.
The amount of hours, but we're not a foundation where we got $65,000 salary for this person. Is no, every cent goes to these people. And it's just, that's how they can follow us. They can find us. And all we look for is prayers, support, people if they want to donate. It's a blessing. A dollar goes so far over there. People don't understand that. And it's such rewarding work. And we get people, when we first started, Aaron, I'll be very brief. When we first started, it was a dream and a vision, and we didn't know what it was going to become. And now we've got so many dental professionals saying, can we go? Can we go? Because we know how to go.
How many years have you been going?
This will be our fourth dental trip. Nice. We've been to Africa 5 times. And the other thing we're very blessed is typically when we go to other countries within Africa. Because if we're going to be that far, let's go.
Right.
So we've had such great experiences in other countries. But Africa's a big continent. It can get scary. There's civil wars, there's all those things. So we know where to go. These are our family. And this time, when we go in March, Jody and I are going to stay a couple extra days. And we're going up to Saburu, which is Northern Africa. And that's the poorest of the poor. And they want us to set up a clinic up there.
Oh, wow.
Not a clinic, well, or our pop-up clinic, because our dream is we've been donated an acre of land.
Oh, wow.
And we want to build a clinic. And we have the town, it's Aitung. They have 1,500 people in the town. Market day, they have 10,000. And if you could see the market, it's unbelievable. They sell goats and sheep and cattle and tennis shoes and colorful clothes. And we'll have an apartment for the dentist, we'll have our clinic, and then we'll have an apartment for us or traveling people that want to come in, other dentists. And my real dream is to live there 3 or 4 months a year.
Imagine the impact you could have.
It's just these, if you have been to Africa or you haven't been to Africa, the people that have been know that the people in Africa, there's just a life from them that is infectious. And it's unbelievable. Somebody said Africa's like the heart of life. People have nothing. We have so much. And they live life to its fullest. And it's very empowering. And sometimes as I walked out of this Maasai woman's home, that was one of 3 wives with 2 junior high school kids, I walked out and was humbled by the experience because the home's made out of dirt and cow dung. And I said, whose life is really better? Because these people are happy. They don't have the anxiety, the depression, all the medications to get them through the day, all the addictions. Now, do they struggle? Absolutely. But do they have all the crud we go through? They really don't. And they smile and they laugh.
It's also, it speaks to the point that happy is a choice.
Yeah. Well, yes. Yeah.
Being happy is a choice.
Oh, absolutely.
Like my mom and I always joke around. We could have fun standing in line.
Yeah.
Happy is a choice. There's nothing external that will give that to you if you're not there.
Well, and if you make the choice to be happy or figure out how to become happy, guess what? A lot of things fall into place.
Amazing how that works. All right, we're going to do round 2. We'll get you to do more shows. We can have more conversations. I really hope people check out the foundation, reach out to you. I love chatting with you. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And I can't wait to connect when you come back from your trip and hear all about it.
Aaron, thank you. Thank you. It's wonderful just to have a dialogue and conversation. And so thank you. This has been a pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Ready Yet podcast. I truly enjoy bringing these stories of success and inspiration to you. Please join us in our mission to empower entrepreneurs to be in charge of their businesses and in charge of their lives by sharing this with anyone you know who would benefit from our tactical and motivating advice, leaving us a review, and letting us know if there are any particular topics you would really appreciate hearing about. See you next time.